To replace the main brush motor on Bob Pro, you'll need a new main brush motor and a Phillips head screwdriver. Power off Bob before starting your repair. Press the bumper in while holding down the cover button. After 5 seconds, Bob will beep, and the cover light will turn off when released. Next, remove the dustbin. Grasp the tab on the back of Bob and slide the dustbin out. Then, flip Bob upside down so the wheels are facing up. Remove the 6 large screws from the underside of Bob. Keep all screws and parts removed from Bob safely aside for later reassembly. Next, remove the 2 small screws that hold Bob's side casing. Pull to detach each piece, using a flathead screwdriver for leverage if necessary. Grip the tabs on the yellow main brush frame and pull up to remove. Then lift and pull the brush slightly to the right to detach from Bob. Bob's casing is no longer secured. Carefully flip Bob back onto his wheels and lift the cover to expose the mainboard. Then, disconnect the circuit plug attaching the cover to the mainboard. Disconnect the 4 circuit plugs on the bottom row of the mainboard. Then remove the 4 screws securing the mainboard. Next, remove the 4 screws securing the vacuum motor. Lift the mainboard slightly to access the 4th screw. Then lift the vacuum motor out. Remove the 5 small screws securing the main brush compartment. 1 screw holds a partition piece that you can slide out of Bob. Remove the remaining 4 screws. Then, lift the main brush compartment out. Place your new brush compartment in the open space. And reinstall the first 4 screws. Slide the partition piece back in place. Make sure it sits flush with Bob's casing before installing the final screw. Now you're ready to replace the vacuum motor. Push the motor down so it is securely placed. Then reinstall all 4 screws. Place the mainboard on top of its screw posts and ensure it sits flat. Then reinstall the 4 screws holding the mainboard. Reattach the circuit plugs along the bottom edge of the mainboard from left to right as follows. Take note of the open spaces on the mainboard. Reconnect the cover's circuit plug to the mainboard. Lay the cover down so it's slightly below the bumper's top edge. The bumper should move when pressed in. Flip Bob upside down and replace the main brush. Insert the square end of the brush into the square indentation inside Bob. Then lower the brush into place and replace the yellow guard holding it on Bob. Next, install all 6 large screws on Bob's underside. Align the side casing pieces with the screw holes on Bob's underside. Then flip Bob onto his wheels and snap the pieces onto Bob's sides. Next, install the 2 small screws removed previously. Then flip Bob onto his wheels and slide the dustbin back in place. Press and hold the cover button for 3 seconds to turn Bob back on. And congratulations! You've just replaced Bob Pro's main brush motor. Happy sweeping!